Okay, good afternoon. My name is Paul Quarter. I'm with Perfect Golf Event. We help people have more successful events with website technology, contests, and other advice we can help with you in terms of raising money, selling sponsorships, etc. Today we're going to talk about sort of a general overview of some of the things you can do to make sure that you beat your fundraising goal. A couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, we got a lot of people on there, so thank you all for coming. If you need a copy of this presentation, I'll give you my email address later, and you can just send me a note. You don't have to copy everything down. I'd be glad to send you a copy of everything that we talk about today, including any of the attachments and spreadsheets that we talk about. So we're going to focus on today is generally an overview of how to have a successful golf event from start to finish. Now, there are some of you who are very experienced organizers, and there are some of you who this is a brand new event. I think it'll benefit both of you. Again, I've been in the business. I've been doing golf events now for about 16 years. I personally manage about 12 to 13 events across the country where I actually go and manage the events and work with them besides being the CEO of Perfect Golf Events. So I've got pretty good experience, and we also interface with a number of organizers. During the course of the year, we have great exchanges of information and ideas, and we try and incorporate that into these educational sessions as well. So again, thank you for joining us. If you just got on board, remember that I'll be glad to send you a copy of the presentation so you don't have to copy everything down. When you're having your charity golf event, obviously it's a fundraising golf event, you're looking to raise money. There are more important things, not more important, but as is important. I love the fact that you can engage your supporters, your existing group of supporters in a social setting to reinforce their connection to your organization. You get to introduce other people to your organization. 75% of the people who come to a charity golf event haven't paid anything. They're coming as a guest, and there's a chance for you to tell them a little bit about what you're trying to do. You want to have a great player experience, meaning you want the players to say, this is one of the best things that's ever happened. I'm glad I took time off for my work. Also, and we'll talk about this very important factor later, you want to be organized in everything from the registration process, from the check-in to how the event is managed, how people leave. It's very important from a standpoint of credibility that your event comes across as organized and well executed, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. And of course, one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to bring them back next year. We want to have players come to our event, say, I'm going to be back next year. I'm going to tell my friends about it, and that's how you build momentum. It's really important for those of you who are planning your first golf event. You want to get something so people leave and go, that was really interesting, that was different, and I'm excited about coming back to the event next year. When you're doing a golf event, your committee is really an important part of it. It's the sort of the central starting point. You need a good committee. Usually I try and target 6 to 10 members in my committee. I want them to be high energy, people who are committed to, helping us raise money for the event. I might want to include maybe 1 or 2 individuals who have benefited from the services. If you're a nonprofit, for example, that supports people in the community, you can always have someone who's benefited. Possibly they're a very good advocate and testimonial for you. The biggest tip that I can make on this is to keep your committee completely focused on identifying sponsors and players. I was on a conference call with the committee late last week, and all of a sudden, and their event is not till June, and they started to talk about who is going to be manning the registration desk. And I had to stop them, and I had to say, look, it's January. What we want to talk about today is who's going to be the sponsors and who's going to be the players. We can have an organizational discussion 45 days before the event, or you can have a subcommittee for that, but you've got to keep it. And you'll find your committees tend to get distracted. They want to talk about the menu or spend some time on the player gift. And really what you want to do is keep them back. What are we doing in terms of players? What are we doing in terms of sponsors? Very important, and that's your role as the organizer of keeping those people engaged in the complete focus on the bottom line. Before you start, especially if you have a new event, you've got to inventory what resources you have. Do you have funds available to start? Do you have golf course deposits? Do you have money to promote your event to start? What's your database look like in terms of potential players and sponsors? I always ask that question when someone calls and says, I'm planning a golf event. I'll say, okay, what's your audience? In addition to your committee, who's available for support, for people, for volunteers, the day of your event, people to help you get organized? Do you have any contacts in the media that can help promote your event? We'll talk about testimonials later, but do you have testimonials about how your organization has benefited people, and testimonials about your prior event. So you want to inventory what kind of resources do you have here, because that's going to determine if you can have a success or not. Now, one of the things that's really important is tracking your financial goals. So for my events, it's very important for me that I have all my revenue and expenses tracked down to the bottom line. So I've got a spreadsheet. I'll be glad to send the spreadsheet to you. It's got the formulas built into it. But I set down specific revenue goals for each item. Same with all my expenses. If it's an existing event, I go back and I look at what I've had for the past couple of years in terms of revenue and expenses. That helps me set goals going forward. Be conservative. Events fail because they overspend, meaning they think, oh, we're going to have 100. They do their budget. They say, oh, we're going to have 144 golfers and we're charging $200. We're going to make so much money. They end up with 102 golfers and they've overspent or overcommitted, and all of a sudden they're not making the money they expected. So I don't spend a lot of money on my events in terms of player gifts and things like that till I see how we're doing. And if we're doing really well, I might enhance things, but I want to make sure I'm protecting my bottom line. I'm also looking at all the time on which of the expense items can I reduce. And what I mean by that is I might have people, I may have spent money on food and beverage or bottled water or player gifts. And I look and say, okay, what can I do in terms of trading maybe a sponsorship for that? So I can get somebody to donate the beverages and I'll give them a sponsorship in the event. It's a good sponsorship. I might give them a spot in the tournament. You're trying to look at every way you can drop more money to the bottom line. But one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to cut things that are going to make the player experience any worse. So don't get cheap on anything to do with the players. Don't look at the meals and say, well, we can get by with tuna sandwiches when the golf course is ordering a barbecue with, hamburgers and hot dogs or brisket or whatever. Those are things you don't cut your money out on. You want to make sure the players just have a great experience. So don't be cheap on that end, but watch all the other operating expenses. As I said, here's a spreadsheet that I use. It's got one side, top's got all my revenue projections. The other side's got my expenses, and it just comes down here to the bottom line of what I'm looking for. If you haven't picked your location yet, I think it's important that you look at upgrading your location. Golfers and sponsors are attracted to a good golf course. The better the course, the more you can charge. So I don't always look for the lowest price. Remember, if you're asking a title sponsor to put his name on the event, and you're playing at a golf course that charges $35 a player, that's not a high-end golf course. So maybe the sponsor doesn't want his name associated, he or she want their name associated with that. So if you can find a better golf course, you can charge more, it'll attract more golfers. So don't settle for the cheapest one out there. Also you want to do is think about holding your event on a day other than a Monday. Almost, there's 300,000 charity golf events, and I'd say that 250,000 of them are on Mondays. And I don't know about you, but sometimes if I've been off all weekend, I want to get into the office and work on Monday, and I don't mind taking time off later in the week. So I've had real success with the events that I manage in terms of having events on a Thursday or a Friday. So sometimes I'll be able to get a golf course to do that. Sometimes they don't like to do it, but if you say, hey, we're willing to tee off at 1 o'clock so you can get your morning rounds in, and then we'll tee off at 1 o'clock so they get their revenue in the morning, and then you get the afternoon. So just work on that. You've got some potential in terms of raising more money. One of the big things that I ask people whenever they talk about their event, I always say to them, hey, what's your excitement plan? What's going to excite people to come to your event? And so traditionally, I will look at an event, and the base event would say, okay, typical event might have breakfast or lunch, then they play golf, then they have their awards. So that's kind of where it is. They may throw a couple of contests in there. What I want you to look at as an organizer is say, okay, and I'll show you examples in the next slides. What do we have that's going to attract players and sponsors? What's happening before tee off? What's going to be on the course? What's happening after golf? So when someone's making their decision, remember, they have lots of options in terms of events events they can participate in. And so if you're just saying to them, come on out, we're going to have a box lunch, we're going to have golf and a cart, and then we'll have a little award ceremony at the end, versus somebody like this, here's an event that I manage in St. Louis, and you can see, when we put our marketing materials together, we say, look, here's all the cool stuff that's going to happen at the event. Before the event, besides the buffet, we have a guaranteed winner putting contest. On the course, we got these 5 hole-in-one contests, including a golf safari to South Africa and trips to the Final Four. We got a different contest out there where you can win FootJoy shoes. We have a qualifying for $1 million shootout. We have liquor sampling stations. On this particular event, I have 5 liquor stations out there. I bring a taco truck out next to the tequila station. Post golf, I have a reception. I have 10 golfers shoot for $1 million, and somebody gets $1,000 guaranteed. So when I say to someone, and we also do a helicopter ball drop, this event has been sold out. This will be probably, I think it's our 6th year coming up, completely sold out every year. Why? Because we're playing at a great golf course and we have wonderful format with exciting contests. And that's the challenge to you as an organizer, to say, hey, how can I fit that in? Now, having said that, you don't have to spend millions of dollars. We can put together a format for you that's interesting with a particular budget. So I have some people who, I have a person who's doing an event coming up. They have 36 people in the shootout at the end, and they're doing it for $100,000 each, which is a lot cheaper than $1 million, but it's still cool to say, come out to our event, 36 people are going to take a shot for $100,000. Here's another one. This is a new event that we have coming up at Orlando at one of the Disney courses. This was a new event, and Orlando has a ton of golf events. So we worked with the organizer and said, if you're going to do this, let's make it a really interesting format so that you're going to stand out. So we're doing it at Disney. On this one, we're playing 9 par 3 holes and 9 regulation holes. It's for a Greek organization, and so we've got, one of the hole-in-one contests is a trip for 2 to Greece. We're having a shootout for $1 million, putting contest for the Ryder Cup. So these are the things when someone looks at this and goes, wow, if I'm going to take time off from work on May 7th, this is where I want to be. I don't want to be at an event that's just going to have the box lunch, golf and awards. And so when you're working with your committee, one of the things you want to look at is say, hey, what are we doing to make our event look special as well? So take a look and remember, how does your event compare? If you want to see some other ideas on that, I've recorded a webinar just on event day formats and ideas. It's under perfectgolfformats.com. It's one of my other recorded webinars, and you might find that interesting. Now, and again, if some of you have questions, just post them on the question box, and I'll get to them when we get towards the end. Calculating your fees. Very important to make sure you calculate your fees properly in order to make the money. So first thing I've learned is it's hard to raise the cost. So you're better off to go in a little high and try and build and add more excitement than think like, well, this year we'll go out at $125 and then next year we'll make it $200. That's not the way it works. You'll have trouble. Just people get used to what they're paying. So I'd rather have you start out a little high and maybe do some early bird discounts and stuff than go in low and think you're going to raise it each year. Remember, the more you can deliver, the more you can charge for the event. With the quality of the lunch, quality of the formats, the contests, things like that, the more you can charge. It's important to get all your costs together before you're setting your fees. And then you want to project all your revenues, be conservative, and then that'll help you set up. So the idea is this: when you get all your fees together, your costs together, divide it by the number of anticipated players, and then you'll understand what to charge per player. You mark that up, obviously. But the players tend to cover the cost of your event. The real profits in an event come from your sponsorships. That's where all the money drops to the bottom line. So what I try and do is, depending on the golf course and where the event's going to be, if all my costs all in for golf are $120, I might charge $200 to play, maybe $250, depending on what kind of golf course we have. And then I sell a lot of sponsorships to get to my final number. And you'll be able to use that spreadsheet that I sent you to kind of do that calculation as well. That'll help you in the sense of figuring out what I need to charge to get to it. And people ask me all the time, what are your typical sponsorship fees you would charge for an event? And I just I looked at all the events we did last year, and here's kind of a range. So you might have a title sponsor at $1,000, or a little higher event might be a $5,000 title. Premium event might be $10,000, but don't be afraid. The event I do in St. Louis that I showed you a minute ago that's been sold out, the title sponsorship there is $100,000, and I've sold it for the last 3 years, $100,000 each. You know why? Because I asked for it. I just put out $100,000 sponsorship for the title sponsor, and that was really high. We'd never done that before, and somebody came in and said, "Wow, what do I get to be the title sponsor?" I give them 8 teams and a lot of other stuff, but this will be the third year in a row they've written us a $100,000 check. So you just got to ask. But this is kind of gives you an idea. So when you're working on that spreadsheet, you can plug in some of these numbers that give you an idea of what you should be charging. You know, for your whole one contest sponsorships or your close to pin sponsorships. It's gonna depend on your area, the demographics of your area. You know, if you're in, downtown Beverly Hills, maybe you're going to be different than somebody who's in Roanoke, Virginia, but you know the marketplace better than we do. Now, this next part of this is really important, is building your database. And for me, building my database is a year-round thing. I'm always adding to my database of potential players. So you want to build a list of potential players and sponsors, and I'm doing a whole webinar after this on how to sell sponsorships. But you want to collect all the information you can on potential sponsors. Same with the players. Put everything into a central database. And remember, you can load everything up in your Perfect Golf Event website, so you can email all these people. One of the big things too is make sure you're asking all your committee members, all your supporters, to get you contact information, so you can keep adding people to your database of people that you're marketing to. So, I'm doing another event in St. Louis. It's in June 22nd, and we started with about 700 names in the database, but we've gone out and we keep asking people, is there more names I could use? Are there more names you can give me? We're building that database, so the next email blast that goes out, that we have more people in that. This is really important. If you do this, you're in the top 5% of all the events that are out there, and that is have a marketing calendar. And so what I want you to do is look at when your event is. And so, we're in January now. Let's say your event's in June. Well, look at all the different categories, and you have to sit down with your committee and yourself and say, all right, what do we got going on in March? Are we doing a save the date? Well, maybe we've already done that in January. Are we doing an early bird special? Maybe we finished that in January. How are we doing social media posts? Are we posting stuff out to Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn? Are we doing email blasts? Are we doing phone blitzes? And so you need to sit down and say, we need to look at this to see what's building, because a lot of people call me and say, Paul, my event's 45 days away. I have 50 players and we were counting on 100 players. And then I go back and I said, okay, let's go through what have you done in the last 30 days to promote your event? And then, the tends that they fell short. Everybody gets busy with their real life, and all of a sudden they haven't done anything with the event, promoting it. And so that's important in terms of what you're doing. And again, if you want the spreadsheet that I could send you this, I'll be glad to send you that spreadsheet. As I said before, I'm going to be doing a whole 40-minute session on how to sell sponsorships after this webinar. But a couple of quick things for you to think about as you're looking at your event is make sure that you offer lots of sponsorship options. Make sure people can pick from maybe 15 to 20 different sponsorships, so they have something that fits their budget. And make sure you've got sizzle in each of your things. So I promise you, I saw an event get set up today where the title sponsorship was $5,000, and it said include your logo on the welcome banner, and that's what it said. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not spending $5,000 just to have my logo on a welcome banner. I want some more stuff from there. So you got to say to yourself, what are you going to give your title sponsor? Well, you're going to get a team. You're going to get introduced at the awards reception. You're going to be logo on the website. We're going to let you we're going to let you have reserved seating at the awards ceremony, maybe give you VIP parking when you pull in. We're going to let you be in the press release. So you're looking for anything you can put in terms of sizzle. You're also looking to do research on all potential sponsors. Make sure you look at the size of the company. So, if you're working with a large bank, you're not asking them to be a whole sponsor. And if you're working at a 12 top restaurant, you're not asking them to be your title sponsor. So, look at potential sponsors, do your research, then you can match them up to the right sponsorship. Now, here's another, and I have a whole other webinar on how to fill your field, but we'll give you the highlights. And this webinar is designed to give you a sort of top level view of all the things to consider, and you'll have to dig in a little deeper. And some of them the other ones are recorded at perfectgolfwebinars.com. But in fill your field, remember, event excitement. That's my big message to you. Sit down with your group and say, why are people going to come to my event? And you can add $1 million shot to an event for $250. So for $250, you can advertise, come out to my event and somebody's going to take a shot for $1 million. Well, all of a sudden that puts you different out than every other event out there. So, that's the things you can add that aren't expensive, but add excitement to your event. Consider an early bird special to encourage registrations. I have a lot of fun. I offer within my events, I offer 4 VIP foursomes with concierge service. I only do 4. I charge a lot for them, but in the case of that, they get VIP parking, they get reserved seating, and I give one person is assigned to ride around with that group with beer, Bloody Marys, cigars, whatever they want. And they'll tell you what, and whenever I do this in an event, they're the first ones that sell out, and people say, if I do it this year, I want to make sure I'm guaranteed to do it next year. I want this for the rest of my life. And it's a great way. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. Get a volunteer to drive around and bring them beer and Bloody Marys. But you can charge, if you normally charge $1,000 for a foursome, I charge $2,500 for the VIP foursome. And these guys love it because they can bring their clients out. I give them some hats that say VIP. I mean, anything I can do to make them feel special. And then you'll sell it out every year. Ask anybody who registers for other contacts. Always ask for referrals. Make sure you got that marketing calendar we talked to. And one of the things people miss, again, for all my events, at the awards reception before people leave, I ask them if we want to save the spot for next year. I said, we sold out this year. Should I put you down for next year? And they say, yeah, and they commit. I don't ask them necessarily for money, but I can go back to them and say, hey, thanks for attending the event. Make a note. Our next year's event is, whatever date, and appreciate you already committing to next year. It's a great way. Start filling your event right away while they're still high from having an exciting, great event that you gave them. You want to collect testimonials. Again, if you want to be in the top 2% of all the events out there, collect testimonials about your event. Ask players and sponsors directly for testimonials. They're really important for sponsors because if you can get one of your testimonial people to say, or one of your sponsors to say, I've been a sponsor in this event for 3 years, and it's really helped my business. I've gotten plenty of new clients from this event, and I'm going back again next year. Well, that's great. Everybody wants to hear that it's successful. So gather testimonials, and you can use SurveyMonkey to get a free testimonial survey out. And then you can post those on your Perfect Golf Event website. But if you do testimonials, again, you're going to be in the top 2% of all the events that are out there. Remember to have your website set up. Hopefully you're using Perfect Golf Event. Here's a sample of a couple of sites that have already been set up. We have thousands of sites out there, but you can see how the graphics, the ability to put sponsor logos out there to promote all the different contests. That's what you're doing with your marketing calendar. You're driving people, to your website so they can register, and you've got to collect all the information in one fell swoop. One of the real important features of your website should be, whether you use us or a competitor, is make sure you can list all your sponsorships, make sure everybody can register online. You can put sponsor logos up, allow sponsors to put up special offers, allow you to capture the information you use for signs and banners. So if you haven't got your website up, I don't know if you don't have a website set up, I don't know where you're driving your traffic to for easy registration. It can't be call Sarah to play in the event. You got to have a good website. Some other tips as we're going for, I use this occasionally if I'm trying to jumpstart an event. I have a preview day. And by a preview day, I mean I might go to the golf course that we're having the event at, or I might even go to the nonprofit's headquarters. We'll have either breakfast, lunch, or cocktails, and I'll bring in a speaker, somebody who's interesting. It could be a celebrity, it could be an athlete, it could be somebody who's been impacted by the organization that is being supported. And then I say to my committee members and staff and everybody, please invite a friend and bring them out to this thing. It's not going to be long. It's going to be fun. The speaker's going to be interesting. And at the end, we always say, hey, if you like what we're doing, you think our cause is worthwhile, please consider supporting the golf event. We're having it in 90 days, 120 days. Come on out. And if the weather's nice during the preview day, I might even have a couple of putting contests and things like that just to get people in the mood. But it's another way, if you've had trouble jump starting your event, this is a good way to do it. Now, you won't hear a lot of people give you advice on this, but if you listen to me, you'll benefit. The check-in experience at your event is critical. We actually did a survey, and golfers said to us that one of the major factors that happens with them is when they get to the event How was it organized? How about the check-in process? How was the departure process? Did they feel like the people knew what they were doing? Because here's a good part. If they felt they knew what they were doing on organizing the event, they felt like their money was being well spent with the nonprofit. So that's your first impression they're going to get. So it starts with the bag drop. At my events, if you come to my event, you're going to pull up to the bag drop area. I'm going to take your golf bag, and one of my guys is going to look at your bag, and is going to go with the radio to his registration area and say, Tom Johnson has just arrived. How? Because most golf bags have a name tag on them. If they don't, I'll ask the guy. Now, when Tom Johnson comes up to registration, we say, hello, my name is Tom Johnson. Mr. Johnson, we were expecting you. Here's the registration packet. We have everything ready for you. Saw you bought some raffle tickets and some mulligans. They're in the envelope for you. Here's you go, and here's where your next step is. Make sure you have speed, no lines. For registration, I always divide my lines alphabetically. So, A through M, N through Z are 2 lines. I don't jam up registration with contests. I have that at a separate table. I have my volunteers trained. And so just like you go to Disney, every Disney person knows where the restroom is. I have my volunteers know where's the restroom, where's the putting green, where are my bags, where are we going for the first tee, where's lunch, where's breakfast. Have a volunteer meeting. Again, the impression you make on this is how they're going to view your organization. I can't tell you how many people neglect this and miss the opportunity to be seen as a first-class organization. So just look with yourself and say, what are we doing with our check-in process? Another webinar I teach is on what the best contests are, but in terms of adding stuff to your event, make sure you've got lots of contests and activities. You sell those as sponsorships. Don't be shy in asking golfers for money at your event to get into a contest. Remember, 75% of them are guests and haven't spent any money. And the contests include hole-in-one, long drive, putting, $1 million shots, shootouts, all that stuff. So there's a wide range of things. And we're always glad. I probably worked at 3 events this morning that called and said, I need some ideas. Here's my budget. What can I put together to make my event interesting? And we love doing that. We love telling you how to have a successful event because I think it helps you raise more money and hopefully you'll be a good customer of ours for a long time. I always, for my events, I put all my contests in a super ticket. So they come to the registration, they check in, they go over it and said, hey, if you want to be in the contest, here's a super ticket for one price. Whether it's 25, 50, 100, or whatever you want to do. Some events I charge 200 depending on the contest, but they get everything in one pocket. They get them entering the putting contest. They get some raffle tickets. We draw one name for $1 million shot. So a super ticket lets you bundle whatever you want together. I've also do this at some of my events, and I have what's called a golf ticket. Now, golf ticket is what your normal is. So they're going to play in your tournament, and maybe you charge them 150 or 200 bucks to play in the tournament. So they're going to get all this stuff anyway. Golf with a card, a buffet, lunch, gift, and then you're going to have some hole-in-one contests, $10,000 of cash, tailor-made irons, a range under $500 golf now gift card. So you have some good contests, and it's fun. So say, hey, if you just want that, that's fine. But if you want to have a little more fun, for 100 bucks extra, I do this at registration. I'll say, hey, here's the difference. Everybody's in the $10,000 hole-in-one contest, but if you buy this, if you get a hole-in-one on this hole where the tailor-made irons is, if you get a hole-in-one, you're going to get a Pebble Beach trip for 2 worth $10,000. If you get it on this hole where there's a Bushnell rangefinder standard, you're going to get Super Bowl tickets. If you did it on this hole, you're going to get tickets to the Masters. And then you get long drive. So everybody gets some of the same stuff, but some other people get some upgraded things. Entry in the putting contest, 2 mulligans, and a chance to take a shot for $1 million. And if you sell it $100 per player, then you're going to end up more than covering all the costs and make a lot more money. But who would want to go in out there and say, well, if I get a hole-in-one over here, and every golfer thinks they're going to make a hole-in-one eventually, instead of rangefinder, I'm going to get to go to the Super Bowl. Here's my $100. I'm in. So that's another concept. Raffles and auctions, another area of raising money at your golf event. Your auctions you can set up, and usually there's 3 stages to an auction. You can have an online auction prior to your event. You can have a silent auction at the event or a live auction. You usually use donated items, and you can have things that are donated So you can have like, people donate experiences and autograph things and all that, or you can have what's called consignment options. And meaning, for example, I just did this at an event where, the charity paid $3,000 but they only pay it if somebody buys the experience. So the starting bid was $3,300 and the guy bought it for $4,500. So the charity made $1,500 and they only had to pay for it when it got sold. And it was a trip to stay at Arnold Palmer's cabin up in Latrobe, play Latrobe Country Club, and a couple of it's once in a lifetime experience. It sold fast. And you could have a whole bunch. I probably have 30 of these different ones that you could use, that you only pay for them if somebody buys them, and you make money, and it makes your auction look better. You put a buy now option in, so if somebody wants it, if it's going to be popular, you say, hey, buy it now, and you put a premium on that. And then again, make sure that you've got your payment processing handled so that there's not long lines to check out. That's another thing that kills a lot of auctions. You can do the same thing with raffles. You can have 50-50 raffles. You can do for donate, if people donate things, and you can say, here's a whole bunch of things we're going to raffle off. Raffle tickets are great because you can just keep selling them, and it doesn't cost you anymore. If instead of selling 1,000, you could sell 5,000. Your cost doesn't change because you have a fixed number of items that are going to raffle off. So raffles are another good fundraiser. And remember, you can offer raffle tickets on your Perfect Golf Event website. A couple other fundraising ideas. I'm just going to give you some highlights here, and you can always email me for say, Paul, how does this work? But some might do swing clinics, massages, a ball drop, air gun, drone ball drop, bring in a long drive professional. I might offer a swing analysis, deluxe beverage sampling. So I might have a place where they can get a shot of really exclusive whiskey and a cigar for a donation. I have events for non-golfers, so people can come to the dinner, but beforehand, come a little early, and we're going to have a wine tasting or tennis or bingo. I have one church who's doing a bingo. I might do cigar rolling. So there's lots of things you can add. Again, all I'm looking for is what can I do that gives the players a better experience and drops money to your bottom line. Last couple ones. Some of my events I do a program, and if I do a program, I have ads in the program so that people can say, I ask some merchants to give me offers, free appetizer with dinner, free retire rotation, whatever. And then I'll advertise my event, and I'll say, hey, come out to my event. Every player is going to get a program with $500 in coupons in it. I might even sell one of those cards where you can have a bunch of merchants on it. People pay $50 for the card and they get a year's worth of discounts at Subway or McDonald's or whatever it is. Again, I don't care. I want more revenue, and I'm not prideful. Now, this is what I've done at 3 of my events last year. It works for a specific type of charity, and maybe you'll fit in this, but it's a donation board. And so what I do is I set it up at the event, and this one I did for a police association. We have another one coming up this May. And basically, there's certificates here at different levels. So if they donate $50, what they're doing is they're giving at $50. They're supporting the family's utilities. At $100, they're paying for insurance. At $250, they're helping with the high school education. $500, they're doing the college fund. $1,000, they're helping cover the vehicles for the police person. These are people who are killed in the line of duty. And then for $5,000, they're supporting family housing. And so they have these certificates. They can just take them right off the board, go over and pay for them, or they can make a note and say, please send me an invoice. It's called just a fund and need thing, and it's just an ask. No pressure, but it gives them a definitive thing of where their money is going to be used. Make sure you've set up your website. I'll give you here all the features of the Perfect Golf Event website. I hope you're using it. It helps fund these webinars. If you have questions on the contest or anything else, just go to Perfect Golf Event and click on the tournament shop. And if you have any questions, or if you need something, if you want a copy of the presentation, let me know. So again, I appreciate you all attending. I'll leave the screen up for a bit if you want, in terms of if you want a copy of the presentation, just send me a note to Paul at Perfect Golf Event. I'll be glad to do it. I want to thank you for listening, and please feel free to contact me or any of our team if you need some ideas on having your event and being more successful this year. Again, thank you very much and have a great event.